Good morning from the beach of Byron Bay and the northern rivers of Australia. I'm redoing this video. I did it yesterday, but the wind destroyed the sound, so I'm redoing it today. But because this is my studio, always comes with difficult light and sound problems. And if I walk in this direction, because the sun's behind me, I'm a bit shady. But if I walk in the other direction, the wind hits the microphone and ruins the sound. So you'll have to put up with me being a bit dark today. Probably better anyway. So welcome to my next video on my 2 foundational principles. The tide's really high at the moment. Not much beach to walk on. My 2 foundational principles. The first one is that true health comes from living in harmony with nature's laws and rhythms, consistent with the Gaia theory, which states that all living organisms and their inorganic surroundings have evolved together as a single living system. Also consistent with the statement of neuroscientist Carl Friston that the anatomy of any system must contain within it a model of the environment from which it is immersed. So what we're going to talk about today is the new scientific research on ovarian cancer and the mitochondria. We're going to talk about the microbiome and persistent viral infections, and we're going to talk about circadian rhythms and the immune system. We're also going to look at similarities and differences between Bitcoin, gold and the sun. So if you're interested in any of that, hang on for the musical break and let me have a rest, because that was a lot of words, and we'll get stuck into it. Okay, so let's start off with the latest scientific research on ovarian cancer and the mitochondria. So scientific research is now very clear that cancer is caused by the mutation of a cell in response to a toxic environment in a desperate attempt for survival. So it de-evolves into a more basic form with a more basic metabolism, and it sends out metastatic cells in an attempt to spread, ensure survival of the species. And we now know from research last week that with ovarian cancer, we know that part of that process of de-evolution is changing the way the mitochondria work. The mitochondria become different and less healthy. Therefore, it's reasonable to suggest that we should all be trying to keep our mitochondria as healthy as possible. So how do I do that? Well, one of my big ways is obviously getting exposed to a lot of natural light, which is why I record these videos walking on the beach with the sun. And the benefit of that natural light is that it ensures that I make optimal levels of melatonin in the evening. One of the things that melatonin does is it gets rid of damaged mitochondria and it promotes healthy mitochondria. So I want to maximize my melatonin production by getting exposed to natural light and minimizing artificial light. Of course, whenever I'm out in the sun, I protect my skin with my sun tonic. I build up a tan with melanin in there, which is nature's way of protecting me from the sun. And I get out of the sun and I cover up as soon as I start to get hot skin or pink skin. It's very important. The second way, of course, that I optimize my mitochondria is by getting in cold water, because that helps convert my white fat to brown fat and gives me more healthy mitochondria. Second study I want to talk about is the microbiome and persistent infections. And there was research out last week that the healthier the microbiome, the much less likely you are to have high levels of persistent pathogenic microbes, particularly viruses. And so some of the ways that I use to keep my microbiome healthy is I model the people with the healthiest microbiomes in the world, which are hunter-gatherers in Africa. And they have very healthy microbiomes because we know from research from about 6 months ago that sunlight directly on the abdomen expands the microbiome. And also they do it by eating soul foods, which is seasonal, organic, unprocessed and local. So sunlight on my abdomen, soul foods is two good ways that I keep my microbiome healthy. And also getting in the cold water helps as well, because cold causes, we now know that the cold causes expansion and diversification of the microbiome. So I expand my microbiome with sunlight and cold exposure, and I diversify it by eating soul foods. Last study I want to talk about was the macrophages of the immune system and the circadian rhythm. So we know from last week's video that bacteria, which have been on this earth for 3.5 billion years, have genes which code for the circadian rhythm, internal clocks, so they know what time of day it is. Which means that we develop a circadian rhythm long before we got a heart, a brain, or a set of lungs. That's how important the circadian rhythm is. And the macrophages, which are the first line of defense of our immune system once an organism has breached our external defenses of skin or the gut, the macrophages are like the Marines which patrol the circumference of the camp on duty. The macrophages also respond to circadian rhythms. And so there'll be times when our immune system is working optimally and times when it's having a rest. So what happens if we mess up our circadian rhythm? We mess up functioning of our macrophages, our sentries on duty protecting us, first line of defense of our immune system. So maintaining a healthy circadian rhythm to make sure our macrophage is working properly is very important. How do I do that? I see the sunrise in the morning, which sets my internal clock for the day, and I don't expose myself to artificial light after it gets dark at night. Okay, and part two, I want to talk about the similarities and differences between Bitcoin, gold, and the sun. So as we said, I think that Bitcoin is money for the people, by the people, and as part of the peaceful revolution. It's a decentralized, immutable, commissionless system of value. So what does money have to have? Well, money is different to currency. The important thing about money is it holds its value over time, whereas currency will generally lose its value over time. And money has to have several characteristics, and some of those are that it has to be divisible, it has to have some value, and it has to be portable. Tide's still coming in, haven't got much beach left to walk on. So let's have a look at each of those. Let's start off with value. So everything needs value. Well, how does it get value? Well, we give it value. Generally because it incorporates elements of time and energy. A car has value because it's made out of metal, and metal takes time and energy to get out of the ground. And it also provides me with value because it means that I don't have to spend a day walking somewhere. I can get there in a few minutes. So that's why a car's got value. So let's have a look at whether or not Bitcoin has value. People say it's just a bunch of cryptography on a computer. Well, it's not. Bitcoin is a ledger. It's a distributed ledger, which means that whenever there's a transaction on the blockchain, miners around the world, thousands of miners, keep a ledger of that transaction on their computer. And it's distributed because those computers are all around the world. So every time somebody buys or sells Bitcoin, then that has to be recorded. Or anytime they spend Bitcoin, has to be recorded on that ledger. So it's a lot of time and energy and effort to record that and maintain that ledger, which is where the value of Bitcoin comes from. So Bitcoin's got value. Gold's got value because it takes a lot of time and effort to dig it out of the ground and process it. And of course, the sun has a ton of value because I'm getting my vitamin D from where nature intended. But not only am I getting vitamin D, we know, I'm also getting the entourage effect because I'm getting endorphins and melatonin and serotonin and nitric oxide and stimulation of my T cells from the action of the sun on my skin. So all of those three have value. What about, is it portable? Well, the sun. I can take the sun with me anywhere I want to in the world. And it's easy, I just have to go outside. What about Bitcoin? Is Bitcoin portable? Well, people who own Bitcoin can move it around the world very easily. All you need is to take your cold or hot wallet with you, and you don't even need to do that. All you have to do is take or remember your seed phrase for your cold or hot wallet, and you've got access to your Bitcoin on the blockchain. What about gold? Is it portable? Well, yes. It's pretty easy to take a gold coin with you when you go somewhere. It's not that easy if you've got a lot of gold, because it's very heavy and takes up a lot of room. Okay, so the third one was divisible. Is the sun divisible? Yeah, I can be out in the sun for 5 minutes today, I can be out for 3 hours. And how long I stay out in the sun depends on multiple factors. It depends on how much tan I've got built up, it depends on how much cloud cover, depends on the time of the year, depends on the latitude of the place that I'm in. So the sun is divisible. Is Bitcoin divisible? Yes, Bitcoin is very divisible. Each Bitcoin is divided up into 100 million Satoshis. And so that's a lot of Satoshis. So it's very easily divisible. So you can buy a coffee. You're not buying a coffee with Bitcoin, you're buying a coffee with Satoshis. What about gold? Is it divisible? Yes, you can save gold down to as small amounts as you like. It becomes very difficult to buy a coffee with gold. You'd have to give them a flake. But yes, in theory, it's divisible. So the sun, Bitcoin, and gold all have some similarities. I just think there's a reason that Bitcoin looks like the sun. I don't think it's a coincidence, because they share just about all the different features that you want from a health system and a financial system. All right, I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm going to go have a swim, get a little bit cold. Have a great weekend, everyone. See you next week. Peace and love. Bye.